Welcome back. This is Montes trying out the third homework assignment for Packet Tracer. And the Packet Tracer that we're working on is 8.1.2.11, which is called Connect a Wireless Router to and Configure Basic Settings. In this one, I've actually done this setup in real life, so I have more or less an idea what exactly it's talking about, what it's referring to. But right here, we're just going to do what the homework assignment is asking, so we're not going to do anything more fancy than what I would typically do. Anyways, here we go. So in this situation, before we go on, this is, if you want a decent idea what we're referring to here, is that the cluster 0 would be like the World Wide Web. This here is actually, what was this? Locked. Oh, this is a router with the little antennas. That means you can pick up wireless internet, which we have a laptop right over here and a desktop over here. The desktop doesn't have wireless, so we have to connect directly to it. So all that we're going to find out most likely in step 1, and then later on we're going to do more stuff in step 2. Configure internet, import wireless 1. Yeah, we're not actually going to deal with the laptop itself down here. Mostly it's just going to be between these two devices here. Okay, anyways. Objective. Configure a PC to join a wireless network. Test the wireless connection. Introduction. In this activity, you will configure a wireless router to accept company laptop, that's on here, as a wireless client and route its IP packet. We're actually going to connect to it, but not through the company laptop, but through the PC one. So, excuse me. Step 1. Prepare a network. Prepare the network. Select connections representing the lightning, right? So we go here. Bottom right, packet tracer, copper straight through. Which one's the copper straight through? Yeah, copper straight through, right? When the cursor changes to connection modes, Ethernet 0, so on and so forth. So basically, we've done this in the first one, which is basically just wiring things up. So we click on this one, fast Ethernet 0, right? Where it says blah blah blah, fast Ethernet 0 right here. So connect this with this one, which would be choose fast Ethernet 1 on the RSI. So unlike a switch, which deals with multiple hosts or multiple computers or devices and keeps track of where things go, a router acts like a switch, but a more multi-purpose thing, reason, which is why it doesn't have that many switches. Alright, so we are connected there. In a few seconds, it's going to turn green. It says, here we go. Notice that RWS1, this router, has two network segments, internal and internet. The port Ethernet 1 through 4 and wireless are considered ports internal segments, while the internet port is considered the internet. So it's part of the internet. So this would be considered the internet, right? The WRS1 will act as a switch to the devices connected to it, the internal segments, and as a router between the two segments. So the router will route information from the internet to the devices, and then this will act as a switch to the devices that are connected to it. Right. The PC0 is now connected to Ethernet. Let's see, router between two switch segments. Yeah, connected to two internet segments, Ethernet 1. When Packet Tracer displays green dot both sides connected between PC1 and WRS1, continue to next step. Note, if no green dots, so on and so forth. So basically, just go to the options, change it so that the green dots appear, which would be options, preferences, so on and so forth. So we'll go options, preferences, move this across, and this is show link lights, which we already have it set up automatically. If not, you can go in there and set that up yourself. Now we're going to step 2. So let's scroll down a little bit. Configure PC1 to use DHCP. So the dynamic host, what is it? Something protocol, control protocol. I forget what this C meant, but anyways, it's basically this program is supposed to provide IP addresses to the devices that are connected. So the WRS1 will provide DHCPs. Okay, so here we go. To reach RWS1's PC, one must communicate with the network. The wireless router usually includes a DHCP server, and the DHCP server is usually enabled by default on an internal segment of the router. So this actually has the DHCP, and it gives out the IP addresses. So this guy is it. Alright, for PC1 to acquire the IP address for WRS1, PC must receive an IP information from the DHCP server RSW1. So let's go there. Click PC and select Desktop tab. Here we go. This across here. Desktop tab. Right, IP configuration. And then it says click IP configuration. And then select DHCP. So it's static, but it doesn't have any IP address. So we go DHCP. There we go. This address that it received that address from our WRS1. WRS1 provided these numbers to PC0. And then here you'll notice these lines right here where the question says, what is the IP address of the number? For any, there's a couple other people that got stuck on this, but in a normal situation, you would actually take a piece of paper and write out the answer. So what is the IP address of the computer? The IP address is 192.168. You write all that down on a piece of paper. All these. You'll notice a few other lines there as well, and lines down here when we're going further on. If you're working on this at home, just ignore them. Don't ignore them. Just treat them as a rhetorical question. Think about what is the IP address that you have currently right here. Take that in consideration because this will change in the future. So it's good to know what the IP address is at the moment. What is the subnet connections? What is the default gateway? So on and so forth. So there would be these three questions that it's looking for. Okay, close the IP configuration window. Note, the values can vary within the network range due to normal DHCP operations. Okay, step 3, connect to a wireless router. In the desktop tab, choose web browser. So the web browser would be this, which would be, in a normal situation, would be Chrome, Firefox, or Internet Explorer. Alright, let's see. We have there. Alright, now enter this number. So what we're going to do is just going to copy and paste. Control, copy, right click, paste. This is actually the address to the router, as you will notice. And it's asking for the admin and password. When you set up routers, a fresh new router will have an automatic simplified password, which in this situation is admin. So the username is admin and the password is admin. There we go. Wireless D broadband router. So you see we are already connected to the wireless router. Wireless router S1. You see? Alright. Now here comes a little bit of a complicated part. This is going to be a little bit complicated, a little bit confusing, but you got me to help you out, so don't worry. Let's just open this up a little bit more. Not that much. Okay, we don't need this stuff anymore. So we need everything that's in this window. Okay. Let's see. Under the network setup heading, the basic setup page. So we have setup, basic setup. That's what we're referring to. Notice the IP address range for the DHCP server. Is the IP address for the PC within its range? Is it expected? Explain your answer. So as you notice, if you answered this question, you'll notice that the range is within the IP address, so it should be fine. And then you would explain your answer down here. I'll leave that up to you to figure that out. Let's see, IP addresses, range, so on and so forth. Yeah, so there's a good explanation, but I won't go through that. All right, configure the internet port to the WSR1. So in this setup, WSR1 is configured to route the packets from the wireless client to other networks. You will configure the internet port on RS1 to connect to other networks. under the internet setup at the top basic setup, change the IP address, the internet IP address method from automatic configuration to DHCP, automatic configuration DHCP to static IP. So where would that be? Basic setup, change, which would be, oh yes, up here. That's what I mean. This is a little bit confusing because it's not very intuitive. But you would click right here where it says automatic configuration something 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 something. So right now it's on DHCP, which is why it's providing the addresses to the other computers. So you don't have to go and set it up manually, everything. But we're actually going to set it up so it will become manual. So we're going to do static IP address. And now, here's the other situation where, as I said in the last tutorial, that you have to be careful that these things don't autofill. I don't think these will autofill automatically, fortunately. Okay, type the IP addresses to be assigned to the internet interface as follows. So this is what it's asking us to do. The internet IP address would be this. So click here. I could copy and paste, but it won't fill out completely. Okay, so 209.165.200.255. Subnet. Oops, what's going on? First, click value subnet mask is out of range. Out of range. Octave value out of range. Ooh, how unexpected. Alright, that's the first time that happened to me. But anyways, let's see if this is fine. 162.1.2.25. Alright, so as you might have noticed, it might have tried to automatically fill in the space, and that gave us the error. But we can ignore that because it already gave us those two numbers. We're just gonna fill out the rest. 255. That should do it. Ah, interesting. 254. Oh, haha. It's not 255, it's 225. That's why. 25. Here we go. That's why you have to be careful when you write it down. You should have told me that I was making that mistake. You didn't tell me anything. Anyways, so yes, 209.165. 200.225. The reason why I can't go anywhere beyond 255 is because this is using binary code, and it can't really go beyond a certain number of value in the code. So 255 is way beyond the value that it can register. It's like basically saying you're using the alphabet and you're saying, well, there's actually 50 letters in the alphabet. Your brain just goes haywire. It's like trying to figure out where's the rest of the letters. It's like I can only count 26 or 27, right? So in this situation, you can't go beyond a certain number, which it mentioned earlier. Okay. Let's continue on. 255, 255, 255, and this one will be 252, 252. There we go. Default gateway 209.162. So it's similar to the one on top, except it's gonna go down to 226. So 209.165. 200, 226. There we go. Now that we have that set up, leave the rest unchanged. So these we're gonna ignore them. Scroll down to the down the page and click Save Settings. So we're gonna click here and drag it down, or we can use the mouse wheel as well, right? And there's this Save Settings. Continue. Click Continue to the next step. Okay. Save. Continue. Alright, let's scroll back up. Step 5. Configure the WSR1 SSID. Navigate to wireless, basic wireless settings. So where's wireless? And then basic wireless settings. Alright, good. Change the network name SSID to A company. So we're going to go here, highlight that, delete, and it goes, where was it? A company. A company. There we go. And then scroll down, save settings. Say settings, continue, scroll back up. And then next step. Laptop now shows a wireless connection to RWS1. So what it's basically asking is, check this out. Look at that. Earlier on, this wasn't here. This was completely empty, if you remember. If you don't remember, you can rewind and you'll be able to see that there wasn't any connection. But now that we have a connection, this is good. Doesn't necessarily mean that the laptop's getting internet connection. Is that the laptop is detecting the wireless system. We need to go in and make sure of that. But that's not in this section. In the next chapter, we'll figure that out. Anyways, where were we? Let's move this up. Okay, WS1, save, continued for the next step. Okay, step 6. Change the WRS1 access password. Navigate to Administration Management and change the current router password to Cisco. So this is for security reasons. As you notice that the password and the username is admin, you would want to set it to a different type of password. So in case if there's a hacker goes in, they won't start with the most basic passwords like ABC or password or 123. So we're going to Administration Management. So we go, where is Administration Management? So management down here. So it automatically goes on the first thing on the list. All right, change router to 0. So router setup. So we're gonna highlight this, CISCO, and then scroll down and save settings. So now it gave us the authentication window, which means that it's not letting us continue because the password's been changed, and what the computer is providing to the system is not consistent to the new password you just set up as. So just because you change the password doesn't necessarily mean that the password that you're providing it is the same thing. It's still providing admin as a password. So we need to provide a new authentication showing that we are the ones that change the password. So admin, and then sys, go. All right, setting successful. If it wasn't successful, then it would just boot us out saying request timeout. That's what it will say. Down here, you'll see that it says request timeout. You'll notice in a minute. All right, where's this? Save settings, admin, click continue to move to the next one. Okay, here we go. Change the DHCP address range in WRS1. In this setup, you will change the internal network address from 192.168.0.24 to 1. So this is, we're basically changing the, where was it? We're changing this second set of numbers. So instead of going 00s, we're actually having a network that has a number other than 00. So this network is going to be 50. And every devices that are connected to the router will have a 50 in its network, or will require a 50 in its network. When the internal network address changes, the IP address and this device in the internal networks must be renewed to receive the new IP addresses before the lease is timed out. So navigate back to the basic setups, right? So basics, setup, basic setups. Scroll down to network setup. So down here you'll see network setup. We're going to scroll down. We're going to ignore the top stuff. And then the IP address is assigned to router IP in here. So this is the router IP. We're going to change it to 50. So we're just going to take this 0 and change it to a 50. There we go. Now, let's see. Scroll to the bottom of the window. Click Save Settings. Now, in this situation, it'll give us a request timeout because I'll show you in a minute. So as soon as we save settings, we're gonna lose connection in a second. Any minute now. Any minute. There we go. Now the reason why this has happened is because we are trying to connect to the router with this address, but the router of the address has been changed, which means that this address doesn't exist in our network anymore. this address is no good anymore. So which means that in order for us to connect back to the router, we need to provide this new IP address. So we can just to show you how it works. This will be really important in this one. Note that the DHCP address has been changed automatically. The web browser will display after a short time. So what I'm explaining to you will fit in this section here. But before we continue on, I'll show you an example, because this is actually very important. Some people just don't really understand this very well, but that's because it's basically saying you change the address to your house and the post office can't get to it, or you change the address to the post office and you don't know where the post office is anymore, right? So control copy, and then we're gonna clean all this out and paste. So this is the new address to the router. The old address is no good anymore. It doesn't exist. Let's see, does it go in? Let's see, 192.168.50. Let's close it. Open it. Oh, actually, wrong one. Web address. Let's see, 192.151. Control copy. Right click, paste. Go. Well, alright, that seems very strange. 68. Save settings, request timed out, so on and so forth. Well, I'll figure that out later. It's not all that important, but that kind of defeats the whole argument that I was trying to explain. But basically, the IP router has been changed. Oh, I know why. We actually lost the internet connection. That's why. I just remember that. We're not really connecting because we're not actually in the 50 anymore. That's another thing. The address that we have in ourselves right now, so we go to close the PC browser, right? Go to PC desktop tab, command prompt. So we go to the command prompt, right? And before we renew the IP address, where it says right there, renew, we're just going to do ipconfig, right? And as you can see, we don't have a connection anymore because our IP address doesn't fit with the street address. Our house address doesn't fit with the street address, and the street address just changed to a 50. So we're not in the correct network anymore. So in order for us to connect back to the router, we need to fix our own computer's address first, which is why it gives us this address, ipconfig renew. So ipconfig space, that's important, just a space before the slash, and then renew, renew. Now it renewed. When you renew, it's basically asking the router for a new address. And as you can see, instead of having 0.0.0.000, it actually gave us a new IP address. Now we can actually connect back into the router because we have the proper address to be able to connect to it. What is the new IP address? So you can tell the old IP address was there. If you notice from way up here, what is the IP address of the computer? This was the IP address of the computer. What is the new IP address of the computer? This is the new IP address of the computer. So now, if we could go back here and copy and paste this. This should go in. If not, then I am at a loss. But don't worry. As you can see, it says completion 100%. So as long as, let's see, there we go. You see, it has connected in. So admin, and then the password is CICSCO, and voila, we are connected. So as I said, in order for you to connect to locations and so forth, it's like thinking of houses in a post office. The router is the post office because the DHCP would be the guy that designates houses, addresses, and so forth. This is the type of street that it is, whether it's a road, a street, a way, a highway, so on and so forth. So by indicating that, it tells what kind of areas here is this street type of address, and ours is 50.1. Actually, it was 50.100. So it should be this. So we're going to check the results. That's the address. Oh, let's close this. We're done with this. We should be done with 100%, which we are done right here, quite clearly. We did everything that it's asked us to, so it's all good. If not, you can always ask the instructor for him or her to go through the steps and see if you missed anything, or like in the first homework assignment, there might have been issues with the program itself. And this one is pretty clear and pretty easy, and we have connection to the laptop. In the next chapter, we're going to go through more about how to set up addresses to the laptop, and it's going to take multiple steps to doing so. It's going to be a lot more complicated, but we got a more basic idea of what we're dealing here when it comes from a direct connection between the PC to an RSI. Anyways, I thank you for viewing this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, or if you have any criticisms, or if I screw this up, or if you don't like the video or anything, leave a comment at the bottom. As well as check out the other videos I have and the other YouTubers that I hang out with and so forth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share as usual. Anyways, so see you later, and I'll see you in the next homework assignment. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.